Why are creepy clowns such a thing nowadays? We've got Harley Quinn, the Joker, and Pennywise now. What next? Is Twisty the Clown from American Horror Story getting a solo movie? After terrifying all of us back in 2017 with the first It movie, Pennywise is now back to ruin our sleep again. This time he's bigger, badder, and even creepier than before. The kids that faced him in the first movie are all grown up now. Somehow, despite 27 years having gone by, they have gotten dumber since the first film. There are so many moments in It Chapter 2 where you just want to scream at the screen. So why don't we all scream together? Here are all the best don't do it scenes in It Chapter 2. Don't live in Derry. Some horror movies like to start in subtle ways. They take time to set up the world and maybe throw in a good scare. Then there's It Chapter 2 that jumps right in with some real-life horror. A sweet couple's night enjoying the fair is ruined by a gang of homophobic jerks. It turns grisly and one of the two men is thrown over a dam by the gang. While they do attempt the crime, it's actually Pennywise who gets the final moment. He's waiting by the water and then does what he's known for doing. The movie often depicts Pennywise in an over-dramatic fashion with lots of CGI. The man's disoriented vision of the strange clown in front of him is truly terrifying. The scene is based on a similar incident that happened to a man named Charlie Howard in Stephen King's hometown. Ultimately, all this boils down to one great piece of advice. Don't live in Derry. It's a horrible place, it's filled with horrible people. Why do we want them to save it at all? Don't go back to Derry. After that, we get a sequence exploring all of the lives of our favorite losers now that they're all grown up. Turns out leaving Derry has been mostly a good thing. For one, all of them are crazy rich. Bill is a popular novelist, Richie's a successful stand-up, and Stanley seems like a happily married puzzle enthusiast? They didn't really go too much into Stanley's life. He didn't really make it that long. Bev and Daddy ended up basically marrying their toxic parents though. Not everyone can get a happy ending, I guess. Surprisingly, Ben ends up with the happiest ending of all. He gets to be a very successful architect who doesn't wear shoes for some reason. Not only that, but he lost the weight and got really hot. Then Mike, the guy who decided to stay in Derry for some insane reason, brings them all back into the fray. Sure, they all made a childhood pact, but I made a childhood pact to become a Power Ranger. Does that mean I've got to suit up and fight monsters? What's even crazier is that they decide to go back to Derry. I know that there are lives at stake, but they all seem really underqualified for this mission. Does the Stephen King universe not have one Ghostbusters, Hellboy-style team to take care of this? Could Mike really not find anyone else to Nick Fury into coming to Derry and taking on the shape-shifting clown demon? Actually, no one would take that job. This is starting to make more sense. Don't work in an asylum. It's about this point in the movie where we check back in with adult Henry Bowers. You remember the kid that was so psycho in the first It that he made Pennywise seem well-adjusted? Well, now he's even crazier. Apparently, all the carnage from the first movie was blamed on him. You can't really blame the police considering how he showed up with a knife and basically confessed. Those detectives probably didn't want to follow up on those creepy clown guy leads that they had. Now he's living in an asylum with a bunch of rejects from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. A zombified hawk setter gives him back his knife and he goes back to being super evil. We then see the security guard right before Henry goes for him. At this point, I don't even feel sorry for the guy. Why would you work security at an asylum in Derry? That's like working at Arkham Asylum and expecting to retire. The craziest part about this whole scenario though, they let him keep the mullet. Seriously, someone came into the asylum on a monthly basis and cut that man's mullet well into the 21st century. I say again, Derry's a weird place. Don't stay in the restaurant. So despite all logic, our losers all reunited a Chinese restaurant in Derry, a restaurant that frankly seems too good for that town. Derry should have a $5 Chinese buffet with a sneeze guard that hasn't been cleaned since Reagan was in office. That waitress brought them like 4 full courses that each looked delicious. The gang starts to reminisce and crack jokes at each other's expense. The best part is Richie acknowledging that most of the losers are way too attractive. It's a sweet enough scene that you almost forget why they've returned. Then Mike starts going into all the Pennywise stuff and things get weird. They open their fortune cookies and see that Pennywise has left them a message. At this point, the movie gets ridiculous. They've been through this before. Stop playing Pennywise's game. Leave the restaurant or things are going to get really weird. Of course, they decide to stay and decode his message for some reason. Then on cue, eyeballs and gross fetal animals start crawling out of the cookies. Instead, Mike starts slamming his chair on the table, breaking all the dishes. Then Derry's most underappreciated waitress comes in and is somehow not freaked out. I assume they left her a tip that was less than 20% and she finally decided to put in her 2 weeks and go back to school. Don't drink the water. So now that the gang has been reintroduced to their childhood terror, they do the only smart thing. They decide to leave Derry. Mike manages to pull Bill aside though, and he takes him back to his creepy lair. That's right, Mike is a lair now. No red flags there. Then Mike casually gives Bill some water. If you ever find yourself in a horror movie and someone offers you a drink, you don't take it. No horror movie features a scene where two people casually drink water together without consequences. So, surprising nobody, the water's drugged. Bill then goes all trippy to understand the lore behind Pennywise, because if books won't do it, the only alternative is a loopy montage. Now that Bill understands what's going on, he's finally ready to face Pennywise. For some reason, he decides to ignore the fact that Mike put something in his drink and definitely stole a precious artifact. He actually decides to put even more blind trust in the man. There is no way that Mike would lie to him again now, is there? Don't talk to creepy old ladies. The gang decides to take on Pennywise after all, and each goes on an individual side quest. Then they all watch deleted scenes from the first movie that motivate them further. These scenes are mostly just nice, but Bev's gets really freaky. She goes to see her creepy dad, but thankfully he's gone. Instead, an old lady lives there and offers her some tea. What did I just say about horror movie beverages? The lady is obviously a Pennywise hallucination. You'd think that Bev would be able to spot him by now. Instead, she decides to have a conversation with the old lady until she turns into a CGI monster. The woman then shows Bev a scene from the inevitable Pennywise prequel movie, and she runs off. Did anyone else think it was weird that she didn't tell the group that Pennywise was a real person a long time ago? That probably could have been useful information. How are you not better at this by now, Bev? At a certain point, you really start rooting for the clown. Don't talk to creepy clowns. At this point, I'd like to take a break for a quick public service announcement. There are far too many children who think it's just fine to converse with creepy clowns that live in tunnels. Educate your children. Don't talk to clowns. The reason we bring this up is that a little girl in It Chapter 2 gets lured into the stupidest trap ever. It's hard to top Georgie's reach your arm into the sewer mistake, but she manages. During a baseball game, she finds her way under the bleachers. There, Pennywise is lurking and literally holding a light beneath his face. That's the most obvious creepy thing you could ever do. Has she never seen anyone tell a campfire story? Anyway, she gets eaten. Pennywise doesn't even have to try at this point. Don't go into the funhouse. Well, Bev, I have to apologize. You aren't actually the dumbest of the losers in this movie. That honor goes to Bill, who thought it was a good idea to walk into a clown-themed funhouse. Nothing could possibly go wrong. Also, Bill was being super creepy in this scene. That kid was much more afraid of the crazy guy screaming at him to leave Derry than he ever was of Pennywise. You'd think that a professional horror author would know when he's being sketchy. I mean, sure, he was trying to valiantly save a child, but how stupid can you be? Could he not have screamed that there were rats in the funhouse or done something to shut it down? Did he literally have to run inside the obvious trap? This scene does occur moments after Bill reaches his arm into the sewer after his obviously fake brother. So he's clearly dumb. Pennywise already used the Georgie trick in the last movie, man. The most unrealistic part of this movie is the part where he gets to go inside the fair without purchasing $50 worth of tickets. Don't lie to your friends. At last, our heroes make it back into the sewers to have a final battle with the monster. They've discovered that Pennywise is just 3 disembodied lights this whole time. The clown is just a form he likes to exist as. Evidently, weird extra-dimensional monsters really like clowns for some reason. Anyway, they perform the ancient ritual that's all about trust and belief and stuff. So when it doesn't work, it's obvious that it's all Mike's fault for lying again. Why would you keep secrets from your friends about a ritual that depends on you not keeping secrets from your friends? You had 27 years to plan for this, and that never occurred to you, Mike? I think there's a fair case to be made that Mike is the real villain of this story. He knew the whole time that they wouldn't survive the ritual and still got them to come down. That's just premeditated bad friendship right there. Don't fight a giant clown spider. What are the 2 things that people most often say they're afraid of? Oh, clowns and spiders, right? So obviously this movie decides to merge the 2 into a giant horrifying clown spider. That's fine, I never needed to sleep again. You gotta hand it to the losers by this point of the movie. Anyone else would just poop themselves and give up at the sight of him, but they still keep on fighting. Part of the reason why is that obviously they aren't in any real danger. Somehow, this final boss Pennywise can't seem to take down the losers despite them being incompetent at every stage. So it's pretty obvious that Pennywise had just had enough of Pennywising at that point. The only logical explanation is that he wants to lose. He gives them every opportunity to figure out how to beat him. The guy's a shapeshifter and he loses them because they go in a hole that's too small. They manage to shrink him down and take him out after Pennywise makes Eddie into Wash from Firefly. Throughout this whole franchise, he's only gotten one of the losers. This is why the Tim Curry Pennywise is better. He at least managed to wound Mike and get Eddie. Chucky, Freddy, and Jason are laughing at him in the horror villain underworld right now. It's hard to be more incompetent than the sticky bandits from Home Alone, but that's about where he ranks. And these are the best It Chapter 2 Don't Do It moments. Was there one we missed? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.